if you're that guy and you just came off a draw, I think rematching will be the most competitive thing to do as an athlete. With the Jake Paul situation, is like, it's a money grab fight.
Davis was in a bit of a hole, and he gets an opportunity to fight Jake Paul for $200 million or whatever. I don't mind it at all. As long as Gervonta Davis comes back to the world of boxing after he gets done with this, hey man, you got your money, no worries.
The countdown continues as Jake Paul and Gervonta Tank Davis intensify preparations for their highly anticipated clash. Jake focuses on maximizing his power and size, while Tank sharpens his blistering speed and knockout precision. Both camps remain fully locked in, fueling anticipation as fans watch two very different styles prepare to collide in one of boxing's most debated matchups.
I don't get it.
Yeah. This Santa Cruz right here to catch it. You can't let it burn, baby. Let it burn. Mind over matter, son. Mind over matter.
This is the blues on.
Ain't nobody doing no shit like this. Come in the desert. He trying to stay away from the desert. He come in.
Shakur Stevenson weighed in on the wave of unconventional matchups. He argued that fights like Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis add little genuine value to the sport. However, he made a distinction with exhibitions involving legends such as Floyd Mayweather and Mike Tyson. In his view, those events carry nostalgia and honor the legacies of proven champions. For Stevenson, when fighters like Mayweather or Tyson step back into the ring for financial or entertainment purposes, it doesn't harm boxing's integrity in the same way as celebrity-style bouts.
For the sport of boxing.
I mean, I feel like in Floyd and Tyson's situation is different than Jake Paul and Buddy. I feel like with Floyd and Tyson, it's like, okay, y'all deserve it. Y'all legends, y'all paid homage, y'all did the most for the sport of boxing already. So you deserve a big payday and be cool. I'm cool with it. I like it. But with Jake and Buddy, I feel like Buddy is participate in the sport of boxing right now, and he just came off a draw his last fight. So if you're a real champion and top level guy that you say you are, which I think you are too, I think you're the truth. But if you're that guy and you just came off a draw, I think rematching will be the most competitive thing to do as an athlete. With the Jake Paul situation, it's like, it's a money grab fight. So to me, it's like some WWE shit.
You think it choke out? Like, I mean, okay, so he gets this fight with Jake. His value goes up.
No, it doesn't.
You don't? It don't?
Not in the sport of boxing.
You don't
I
think
mean, it may.
The demand more because he's, you know, because when we looked at the was a Floyd and
just hypothetical. You know, we speak hypotheticals at time, right? You go in there and that big ass nigga knock him the fuck out. I'm just saying hypothetical. Go in there and knock Tank the fuck out.
That big ass nigga being Jake Paul.
Yes.
Okay, just one.
Knock him the fuck out. Because he's bigger than him.
Yeah.
For one. By chance, it is a fight.
I think the thing is with Buddy and Jake fight, I feel like it's two sides of me with it. Because from a competitive aspect and me being the mentality that I got, I feel as though I probably would have done a rematch. But then from a business aspect, if I would have done the rematch and I did not win the fight, the Jake Paul fight will be a lot less money and a lot less lucrative. So,
you think so?
From a business aspect, I understand that anybody that with a business mind probably would have took that fight for as much money as it was. So I'm a realist. Like, I ain't gonna just bash, bro. No.
UFC President Dana White didn't mince words when asked about Paul versus Davis. He claimed few fans are truly excited but admitted the fight might benefit Davis. Tank has faced recent scrutiny and setbacks outside the ring, and Jake Paul stepped in with a lucrative offer at just the right time. White noted that while the matchup is often mocked, it provides Davis with both exposure and earnings. He went further, shocking many by suggesting Jake Paul could realistically beat Davis not through skill, but sheer physicality. White emphasized Paul's size, reach, and strength advantages against a naturally smaller opponent. For him, the key question isn't who's the better boxer, but whether Davis can overcome the massive physical gap.
To beat Gervonta Davis. This is not a fight that I'm excited for at all. I would rather have Gervonta Davis fighting in a real boxing match against the likes of Lamont Roach, Shakur Stevenson, Keyshawn Davis, Emmanuel Navarrete, anybody that is in the 135-pound division and around. That's who I want to see Gervonta Davis fight. However, we live in a world where everybody is trying to do things as big as possible. And the biggest fights possible right now, unfortunately for the sport of boxing, is an exhibition fight between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis. So, I do like it for this reason, though. I like it because it is allowing Gervonta Davis to have a fight that is going to be big and that the mainstream media is going to have to cover, the mainstream media outside the world of boxing. Gervonta Davis has been, without a doubt, blocked, having venues blocked, having fighters, having other promoters paying fighters away to go different directions from Gervonta Davis. So Gervonta Davis was in a bit of a hole. And he gets an opportunity to fight Jake Paul for $200 million or whatever. I don't mind it at all. As long as Gervonta Davis comes back to the world of boxing after he gets done with this, hey man, you got your money, no worries. But you gotta love Dana White having the audacity to pick Jake Paul in this fight.
Former world champion Paulie Malignaggi shared his thoughts on speculation surrounding a potential Crawford-Paul showdown. While he praised Crawford as one of the most technically gifted fighters of this era, Malignaggi stressed that boxing history proves size often trumps skill when the difference is extreme. He noted that Paul's natural frame and raw punching power could present real dangers, even for someone as sharp and adaptable as Crawford. For Malignaggi, it isn't a question of talent. Crawford's brilliance is unquestioned, but of physical limits. In boxing, size, strength, and durability still matter, and even elite skill doesn't always erase those disadvantages.
I think Davis is more to lose because he's the bona fide world champion. I don't care if he's much smaller. I think Jake Paul has sort of plateaued as far as where his boxing is concerned. It's rather low level. He's big, he's physical, he's strong, he can hit. So there is that risk. Davis, at lightweight, you're in a moment where it's too physical for you. You can clinch. Against the heavyweight, where you clinching? You ain't getting out of that corner just clinching anymore if you run out of space. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. But Davis, listen, there's a lot of talking points that I'm sure we'll get into when this gets closer to the fight. Davis can still punch at lightweight, can drop a heavyweight. There's a lot to gain there, right? If Davis knocks
the answer is yes.
If Davis drops Jake on his ass, as much as Davis is the one with more to lose, it's still a highlight moment.
A visual that will stay forever.
Yeah, but if you get dropped, even if you're smaller, you're still a world champion in multiple weight classes. If you get dropped, what's the look? What's the feel? On the inside, as boxers, me and Chris Algieri, the champion, even you, Jimmy, you have fight experience, so we know that the risk is a big guy that big hits you. You're probably going down if you're a small guy, if he hits you clean. So we know the risk, but how does it look to the public eye who don't understand that? You know what I mean? The public. So there is a lot to lose, though. There's a bit to gain. I wouldn't necessarily have an issue with this had Davis's career arc been one that benefited boxing. Davis was manufactured and put into a position where he's supposed to benefit boxing, and I don't think he has. I think he's hurt boxing. So by giving him this reward, that's my problem. Why are we watching this? Why don't you make him earn his spot?
Behind the scenes, organizers faced unexpected drama when the originally selected venue refused to host the fight. Local officials reportedly dismissed the matchup as more spectacle than sport, declining approval despite its potential for revenue and ticket sales. Promoters quickly scrambled and secured an alternative site willing to embrace the event, ensuring it would move forward. Still, the abrupt relocation fueled fresh criticism. Detractors argue that if a prestigious venue rejected the fight outright, its credibility as a legitimate contest is questionable. Many now view the matchup as driven more by entertainment and money than by competitive merit. The controversy around the venue change has only intensified debate over whether crossover bouts like this truly belong in boxing.
35 pounds. Jake Paul is over 50 pounds heavier than Gervonta Tank Davis, and he's nearly a foot taller than Gervonta Tank Davis. So no sanction body wants to, and no commission wants to, should I say, I keep saying sanction body, no commission wants to sanction it. They don't want to be a part of it, as I told you guys. So they announced that the fight was going to take place November 14th in Atlanta at the State Farm Arena where the Atlanta Hawks play. And the Georgia Athletic Commission, he came out and he made a serious statement. And he let the world know that they falsely advertised this fight, okay? Because no commission won't sanction it to be a real boxing match, let alone they're not even interested in allowing it to be an exhibition, okay? They don't even want it to be, they don't even want to be responsible for an exhibition of this magnitude, right? So he comes out and he says, the commissioner, head of the Georgia Commission, he comes out and he says, quote, I believe it's in the public's interest to know because they've been promoting something they should not have been promoting. It's the dumbest thing I ever heard. It's a money grabber, and I'm not okay with that. So they telling him it's just for the money.
Retired champion Carl Froch didn't hold back when assessing Jake Paul's career. He argued that Paul isn't pursuing greatness in boxing but chasing paydays. According to Froch, every opponent Paul chooses is based on marketability and profit, not challenge or legacy. While Froch admitted the strategy works from a business perspective, he believes it prevents Paul from ever earning respect as a genuine competitor in the sport.
He'd mentioned me before, and there'll be people out there saying, oh, Carl Froch's talking about himself, he's after a payday. Listen, I'm not after a payday. I'm doing all right. There's no problems with my finances. But I'll take the fucking payday, of course I will. And I'll end Jake Paul with one punch. I'd go in there one-armed and beat this guy. He can't box. He's absolutely fucking useless, which we saw last night with Mike Tyson, talking about Canelo Alvarez. I've not mentioned Canelo Alvarez because it's just laughable. Jake Paul, Canelo Alvarez, can you imagine? I mean, Jake Paul fancies that and he jumps in the ring with him. I will pay homage to him because fair play, if he jumps in there with Canelo Alvarez, he'll get absolutely fucking destroyed and it will be fast and it will be messy and it will be bad for his health as well, potentially.
MMA veteran Nate Diaz brushed off the matchup entirely, refusing to even give a prediction. To him, the fight isn't a legitimate contest but a pay-per-view spectacle created purely for profit. Diaz criticized the state of boxing for leaning too heavily on these manufactured events, claiming they damage the sport's credibility. In his view, fights like this are entertainment products, not true competition, and for that reason, he refuses to treat them seriously.
I gotta ask you, Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis. Does Davis have a chance?
Gervonta is a great boxer, but he ain't gonna be.
So you got Jake Paul by knockout, or?
No, I don't got anybody, but I don't think.
He's just too small.
It's just. I don't want to beat up somebody that small. I don't want to, you know what I'm saying?
What do you think of the fight?
I don't want to lose to somebody that. There's no point in the fight. It's a great fight, actually.
You think
I'm not hating on the fight, but I think. My thoughts on it is let's watch it, see what happens.
Ryan Garcia said that boxing's turning into WWE.
Yeah,
with that type of matchup. You agree? Last thing, White House card, like he said, you want Conor McGregor?
Yeah, but the whole thing's on WWE. So
right.
It's like, at least that's happening and getting something to talk about, something to watch. And I'm looking forward to that fight.
Perhaps the most hotly debated issue surrounding Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis is the massive size difference. Paul, who has fought naturally bigger opponents, enters with clear advantages in height, reach, and overall frame. Davis, at just 5 feet 5 inches and usually competing around 130 pounds, is devastating in his natural weight classes where his explosiveness and knockout power make him one of the sport's most feared fighters. Against similarly built opponents, Davis thrives on closing distance and landing fight-ending shots. But against someone as large as Paul, analysts question whether his power can truly bridge the gap. Many fear Davis could struggle to get inside without absorbing punishing shots from the much bigger man, who can use his reach to dictate range. The central debate remains, can skill and speed overcome such a steep physical disadvantage? Some believe Davis's explosiveness keeps him dangerous, while others argue the sheer size disparity makes the matchup far riskier than competitive.
Holy shit, Jake Paul versus Tank Davis is actually happening. What the f is going on? I guess Tank is going broke because that's the only justifiable reason you ruin your legacy against a guy like Jake Paul. And yes, I do think Jake Paul is going to win. Tank Davis is a much better boxer and has crazy power, but he's 5'5", 130. That power is not going to carry over against someone who is 6'1", 210. And it's not like Jake is bad. Yes, his fights are boring. He says he's going to step in the ring and sleep his opponents, but the only people who end up sleeping are the audience. Mike Tyson fight. But at the end of the day, he's a big guy with power who's training boxing full time, and he has beaten some legitimate competition. Woodley, Nate Diaz, Anderson Silva, Mike Perry had a competitive fight with Tommy Fury, but it's crazy how particular Jake has to be when selecting his opponents. They have to have enough clout to be interesting, enough skill to be taken seriously as a threat, but at the same time have clear weaknesses and disadvantages that Jake and his team can exploit to win. Now that he's fighting an elite boxer, he has to fight someone 7 weight classes down. I mean, Tank could win if he makes Jake do a very aggressive weight cut, but I just don't see that happening. I got Jake by 3rd round TKO. He should put me on the co-main event and allow me to fight Francis Ngannou. That would be an easy first round knockout for mine.
Fans and analysts alike have voiced frustration at how crossover spectacles now dominate boxing headlines. The Pauls-Davis proposal is seen as a prime example of this trend. Instead of spotlighting meaningful clashes that crown champions or settle rivalries, promoters increasingly prioritize entertainment-driven events. Critics argue this shift undermines boxing's traditions and alienates purists who expect the sport to highlight elite talent rather than cash-grab exhibitions designed for media attention.
So breaking news, Jake Paul will be taking on Tank Davis in an exhibition on November 15th in Atlanta, Georgia, live on Netflix. And this is crazy for multiple reasons. One, they have a huge size difference. Tank Davis, he's a lightweight, normally fights at 135 pounds. And Jake Paul, he's a cruiserweight, usually fights at 200 pounds. So there's a good 60 to 65 pound difference here. It could also mean that Tank Davis is no longer interested in competing for titles anymore and is cashing out of boxing. You know, there's been a lot of talks that Tank is nearing retirement this year, and he was supposed to rematch Lamar Roach after their first fight went to a draw, but instead of chasing the Roach rematch, instead he takes the Jake Paul fight for money. So maybe this is Tank's last, or one of his last fights. And same for Jake Paul. He just got ranked number 14 at cruiserweight after beating Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., so he's supposed to be fighting other ranked contenders or top guys at cruiserweight, but instead he's taking a money fight. But I do expect these two to go after each other. Even though it is an exhibition, I don't think it'll just be some boring sparring match. I do think they'll try a decent amount. But Tank, obviously he's a lot more skilled. Jake has a lot more size. But you guys let me know who you got.
One analyst broke down the rise of the Paul brothers, explaining their success lies not in boxing accomplishments, but in their mastery of attention. Logan and Jake understand that whether praised or ridiculed, controversy only fuels their popularity. By carefully picking polarizing matchups, they keep themselves at the center of discussion. For the brothers, headlines matter more than rankings. And as long as they dominate conversation, their place in the sport remains secure, regardless of how much purists disapprove.
It's like blockbuster events. They don't look at them as sporting events. They look at them as spectacle. I mean, Logan's in the fucking WWE, for God's sake. That's the way they look at it. And that's the way Jake looks at these kind of events. He does, because he's fighting Gervonta Davis. Into any sports, hardcore, competition, morale, effort, you know, legacy, hierarchy-minded sports person, none of it makes any sense. Because we go, well, no, Gervonta is not in Jake's weight class. What does that prove? We do sport to prove who's better at sport, not with inherent advantages or disadvantages or XYZ. Logan, and I guess Jake for that matter, look at these like, we want to get the most eyes possible regardless of what people say. And I think that Logan and Jake both believe this, because of the disadvantages we came into the sport with, if we are to do better than people expected, or if we're able to win or knock someone out, then we're better. Which is not true, because there's massive disadvantages on the other end. I would say that outweigh the disadvantages on their end, at least Jake said. The way they market these things and act like if I beat Gervonta, I'm better, Or if Logan was like, I beat Floyd and I'm the best boxer in the world, when Floyd wasn't the best boxer when Logan fought him, and also it was a 60-pound weight difference. Like, the way they categorize in narrative shape around it is the thing people get upset about.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Knockout Voyage for more amazing boxing content. Stay tuned for the next big fight.